Hello everyone. In this video, I will show you how to set user preferences in WorldShare Record Manager Fundamentals. First, log into your WorldShare account using the URL for your institution. Next, click Metadata, and then click Record Manager Fundamentals. And then at the bottom of the Record Manager menu, click User Preferences. I'll first go to Working with Records. Notice there are two tabs, one for bibliographic records and one for LHRs or local holdings records. I'm just going to look at the tab for bibliographic records. First of all, there's a default editor. You can choose Mark 21 view or text view. The default is Mark 21. And text view is a label display of the Mark tags. This is a screenshot of Mark 21 view versus text view. One advantage to the Mark 21 view is that there are links to bib formats and standards for help with all of the MARC fields in a bib record. The default record format can be set to AACR2 or RDA. This is for when you need to create a new WorldCat bibliographic record. If you choose RDA as your default for the new record template, you'll see 040 subfield E RDA and also prompts for the 336, 337, and 338 fields. Next, the default holding library code. Your default holding library code is what you'll see in field 049 in a bibliographic record. Previously, when OCLC printed cards, this was used to indicate a collection or location along with the call number. Since OCLC no longer prints cards, you don't have to change this, but it will appear in existing records and in work forms when creating a new record. Next, the default classification scheme. Select the default scheme that your institution uses. Library of Congress, Dewey, National Library of Medicine, and so on. Depending on your choice, the appropriate blank local class number field will display in a bib record. For example, a 090 for LC, a 092 for Dewey, and so on. And when you're viewing an existing record or creating a new record, you'll see these blank fields for you to use. And this is a screenshot of a Dewey classification record versus an LC classification record. If your default is LC, the system would first look for an 090, a local LC number, if you've entered one, and if not, it will then look for an 050 in the record. For Dewey, it will first look in 092 if you've entered a Dewey number there, or in 082, and this applies for when you are creating labels or creating local holdings records. Now, if you have selected Dewey for your default classification scheme, then you can select your default cutter type for 092, either 4-figure or sandboard. And then when you enter a Dewey class number in 092 subfield A, you'll be able to select Apply Dewey Cutter, and the system will create either a sandboard or a 4-figure cutter, depending on your selection here in Preferences. For fields for new constant data records, you can enter default fields to transfer over when you're creating a constant data record from an existing one or from a bibliographic record. And finally, we have the controlled headings preferences. In the control headings video, we go into much more detail about these preferences and about using them in bibliographic records. But briefly, when Add Equivalent Subject Headings is enabled, the system checks for uncontrolled headings present in a bibliographic record, that is, headings that are not linked to an authority record, and it tries to control the headings against the appropriate authority files. With this preference enabled, the system then attempts to add equivalent subject headings for the controlled headings if the record contains controlled RVM, AAT, LCS, H, or MESH headings. If equivalent subject headings are found, they are added to the bibliographic record and controlled to their respective authority file. And the second option is to enable auto-suggest for LC, Library of Congress, or Canadiana names. When this is enabled, the system will automatically suggest an authority record when you click on the name in the bibliographic record. Next, I'm going to click on the Searching Basic Preferences. The first option is if your search retrieves one result only, you can check here to open the record for editing rather than seeing the one record in a results list. Next, the default search results format. Your choice will be applied both when doing a basic and an advanced search. Click the checkbox Display Condensed Result List to view search results in a column view as an alternative to the enhanced search result list. Note you can easily switch between the two types of search result lists by clicking the View Enhanced Search Results or View Condensed Search Results button on top of a results list. Under that, you can customize the columns to display either as a default in Preferences or for a session after you do a search. And this is a screenshot of the Enhanced Search Results view on the left and the Condensed Search Results view with the columns on the right. And then below that, you'll find the search scopes for bibliographic records. So you would click the checkbox to select which search scopes display. And I have them all checked, and I believe that is the default. And if you click on one of the search scopes, for example, All WorldCat, you then can see the indexes for that scope, and the check mark again indicates that these will display and be available for use. And again, the default is to have them all selected, which I do here. If you want to change the order of them, you can use the arrows, the up and down arrows, to move them up or down. And you can also set your default sorting method. Here, it is by default set to relevance, but you can make a change here. And remember, you can always make a change search by search. Now, your basic search area is over here on the left navigation, and here are the search scopes. So you can see All WorldCat, and below that are the indexes, which would change for whatever search scope you've selected. Next, I'm going to close the Searching Basic options and look at the Searching Advanced preferences. Again, you have the option to select Open Record for editing if your search results in one record only. Next, you have the option to set a language of cataloging, and I've selected English as my language of cataloging. You could enter more than one language. You could open the drop-down and select from the list, or just start typing, for example, FRE for French, and add that. Below that is the source of cataloging, and you could select any, which is the default, or DLC if you want to change that, and DLC for Library of Congress. Now remember, you can always change these defaults when doing a search. And below that, you have the search scopes for bibliographic records for the advanced search. And there are just the two scopes here, All WorldCat and My Library Holdings. My Library Holdings would be searching the WorldCat database, but scoped to just records that already have your holdings. And again, if I click on one of the scopes, you would see all of the available indexes, and you'll note that there are many more indexes available for the advanced search. And again, the check mark means that the index is available for me to use. If I uncheck it, it would then not be available in my display when I'm doing an advanced search. And finally, you can move the indexes up and down using the up and down arrows here. And you've got the option here to change the default sorting method to another sorting method. To do an advanced search, you would just click on the link over here that says Advanced Search over on the left navigation. And on the advanced search screen, here are the search scopes, All WorldCat and My Library Holdings, and the indexes and options to add additional indexes. You can search in up to 5 indexes at a time. And then below that, you have the options to refine your search by format, source of cataloging, language of resource, language of cataloging, and also years. I'm going to close the Searching Advanced preferences and open next the Exporting Bibliographic Record preferences. First, you have the General tab, and for the format, you would want to select the option that is best for your institution. I have mine set to Mark 21 with Mark 8, but you can see there are many other options. Below that, you have the option to exclude tags or subfields within tags from records that you export. You would just enter the tag, the indicators, and the subfields. And if you want to enter additional tags to exclude, you can simply click the green circle here to add more tags. And then below that, there's the option to exclude subfields in tags. So you'd enter the tags and indicators and then specify the subfields that you want to exclude from your export. And again, you can add a row to add additional subfields that you want to exclude. Next, I'll click on the International tab. So for non-Latin content that's exported, you have the option to export all data with Latin script in 880 fields, or all data with other scripts in 880 fields, Latin script only or other scripts only. And you have the option for diacritic character usage, so you'd select whether you want decomposed or precomposed. And then you can also set a warning to warn before exporting records that include unlinked non-Latin script fields. The tab for TCP/IP is something that you would want to fill out if your system is capable, your ILS is capable of using this protocol. You'd have to fill in the host name, port, and so on, all of the options that you see here. And if your system is capable of this, you would be able to export records either one by one or a number of records in a list directly into your ILS. If your system is not capable of TCP/IP export, you could alternatively export to a list, and then you'd be able to upload it to your ILS. And the last option here is Uniform Resource Identifiers. And this is an option for you to have the URIs, the Uniform Resource Identifiers, added to your exported records. You can use the name headings, GND authorities or LC NACO authority file for names if you'd like the URIs appended to those names and records. And then also the subject heading identity services, GND authorities, LC subjects, or mesh medical subject authorities. And again, those URIs would be appended to the headings that would be in your exported records. You'll see the export options while you're viewing a bibliographic record that you want to export. At the top of the screen, you would choose the record menu and then select Send To, and you have the option to send it to an export list. And below that, there's the option to send it to your local system via TCP/IP. You could also send records to an export list, and then after a number of records are in your list, you would also be able then to either export it to your computer or network drive or export the whole list to your local system via TCP/IP. Finally, if you've made any changes to your user preferences, you should see an orange dot over on the left navigation next to user preferences, and you'll also see an orange dot either on the tab, for example, up here on the General tab for exporting bibliographic records, and then also for working with records, you can see that. And that's an indication you've made some change, so you do want to make sure that you remember to come back and save your changes by clicking Save at the top. If you have questions, please go to help.oclc.org, where you can find documentation, additional training, and contact information for support in your region.